Good morning and welcome to the Stockbridge Board of Assessors meeting, Monday, July 18th. Mike?
Good morning. So we'll start again with last meeting minutes. The only thing that I carried over was what we'll be talking about in executive session and the FY23 certification, which we will get to. Oh, and update on Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum. We'll get to that too. Number 2, upgrades, new pricing for our online software. I got an email from Cartographic Technologies. It's a pricing memo, but it also details what they're going to be doing. We don't pay for this out of our own budget. The money comes out of the IT budget, but they wanted us to be aware that they're making changes and improvements, and those changes and improvements obviously come at a cost. And we typically pay $3,000 for what we have set up. I believe that's going to be that's going to be the new amount. They billed us $2,400 and they're going to let us keep that price this year. Next year, annual base price for Access GIS will go up to $3,000 for all communities. Hi, Tom. And so I'll leave this with you guys, but I had heard from other communities that they're doing, Tom, this is just an update on them. We're getting new enhancements to our online mapping. So they sent us a pricing memo. We'll stay in, we're grandfathered in for the $2,400, but next year we'll be charged $3,000, but we don't have to budget for it. I'll just make sure that the selectman's office knows that there's going to be an increase in our Access GIS. I wouldn't be surprised if there's also going to be an increase in all of our mapping services. It seems like even our dues went up. Sign of the times, every time you get a bill in, it's higher. But they're going to be doing extensive work. No interruption to the service while they're doing this. They're going to be expanding the search capabilities, the ArcGIS online integration tools, labeling capacity added to public access, improved visualization of search results, more responsive search experience, expanded functionality on mobile devices. I've never used it on a mobile. Have you? Yeah. Is it okay on a mobile device?
Yeah, it's okay.
And updated technology to improve responsiveness and security. So I'll leave this down in the office if you want to look at it, but it's wonderful that they're actually, going to be updating. There hasn't been a big update in years. I still need them to do, which has nothing to do with this item right here. They still have to do a programming change for me to be able to. At the moment, I can't update Access GIS unless I do it on the old system. And because I haven't been updating the old system, because this was supposed to be the year I break from that, but there's more from that to come. I don't have the easy button to press on the desktop, which will convert our data from V8, which is the latest CAMA version, to the online. But we did have an article that was part of the overlay ones that we were going to use. So that's there. As soon as I'm done with everything that I have to get done for the state, I'll have.
Oh, yeah. No, it was me.
I'll have them work on that. It shouldn't take that long. It's just a little conversion tool. But right now we can't. I can update the mailing address changes and ownership changes. I've been doing that on the old system as well. But no value changes will hit from the old system. So in order to have all those values online when we do our tax bills, this will have to be in place, this new routine, and I'll make sure that, they get on it. That'll be CAI that's doing it, not Vision, so that's something different.
And just I use a lot of these programs on a regular basis. So CAI, we were sort of an early adapter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Now other towns are doing it. So most every town around here is using that.
Mm-hmm.
Town of Great Barrington has a different software, in the city of Pittsfield it's different software, but
yeah,
primarily South County, everybody uses this. So
yeah, it's great. What you'll see is a lot of the communities that have we're a little bit different. We have vision, but we have vision for our CAMA appraisal system, but we have Access GIS for our mapping system. And that's why over the years, we've had those issues with getting the sketches on it. But again, that's going to happen too, because they finally got a decent price that we can work with. That's also part of the overlay amounts so those will still be there when we're ready to do it. But I noticed that companies that have been using Vision version 8 a lot longer than I have, they are using the Vision mapping, which for them, they get the sketches and everything automatically on there. But I'm not fond of it. I think that this one is the superior one. I think that's why you're seeing more communities starting to use it. I think the workaround that we have to do once we start doing it, I think we'll be fine. I had mentioned number 3 a few weeks back, the 504 appraisals from RRC, that I did have them back. And I just wanted to quickly go over. I went through these because Joe will be going through these once we submit it for part of our certification. Last year was the first year that we had a company, RRC, who's also doing our personal property, do the valuations for Berkshire Gas, Mass Electric, and Eversource NSTAR, which is our 3 utilities that we value through personal property, which is a requirement also by the DOR. They no longer value it on their end and send us the values. We either do it ourselves or we have a company do it for us. So I just wanted to quickly go over the FY22 versus the FY23 values because, like I said, Joe will be looking at these. He might have questions. He had a question last year, but he seemed to resolve it on his own. They look good to me. So last year, Berkshire Gas, we had a value of $2,231,693. This year it's $2,366,895, an increase of $135,202. They're reporting new growth of $165,820, which is excellent. We barely ever get any new growth when we're doing these or when we're getting the valuations from the DOR. So that one's not too far out. Mass Electric last year was $12,402,886. And if you remember, that was an increase of almost 4 million because we had consistently reported around 8 million for them. So having the appraisal done, of which we also did not receive a single appellate tax board appeal. We have not even a local appeal on any of these. That might change this year. I mean, it's all over the place. My last chat with local assessors, Berkshire County Assessors Association, some people are getting appeals, some towns aren't. It's just, there's no consistency with it, but I'm hearing a rumor that possibly Berkshire Gas may be filing a blanket appeal with every community. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but it may happen. So I'm back to Mass Electric. Last year was $12,402,886. This year is $12,432,683, an increase of $29,797, which isn't bad at all. New growth that they're reporting is $254,062, which is excellent.
So just to circle back, so we're going up valuation of 29,000, but their new growth is much more. The reason the difference is because of the depreciation schedule?
Well, it's never the difference between last year and this year. It's whatever new items. It's only the new items. If they got rid of, a lot of machinery or took down, poles and wires and did stuff with underground conduits, we never take that off the books. We only add the new items that are there. So this 254,062 or 165,820. When RRC did the valuations on the appraisals on these, they're strictly looking at their schedules and seeing what is new for calendar year 2021. And that's what these totals are. We do the same thing with the personal property on the businesses. What we will deduct, we'll take away anything that we don't see that, obviously they're not reporting anymore, but the new growth is only ever going to be the new items, not the difference between what they have and what they don't have, just brand new items. So that's representative of that. NSTAR, Eversource is such a small amount. 8,938 last year. This year 9,666. This appraisal is actually thrown as a freebie because it is so small. Difference of $728. New growth $325.
So we only have Eversource, because Eversource technically doesn't serve Stockbridge, but they
Yes.
services areas very close to us. So they have
Right.
some equipment
just-
in Stockbridge, just because
Exactly.
it's coming from Lee or it's coming from.
Yep, their schedule is really small. This is their schedule. These go on for pages. I mean, look, this is all that they're being valued for.
Now, what about National Grid?
This one's national, Mass Electric is National Grid.
Okay.
They still go by Mass Electric
Okay,
for
that's what
some
I was
reason.
wondering. Okay.
So then when we talk about high tension lines and the Tennessee pipeline,
That comes from the state.
so the state still does the high tension.
Those I haven't gotten yet. I haven't received those values.
So-
Yeah, Verizon New England comes from the state, Tennessee Gas, and there's one more. Can't think of it, but yeah, it's a smaller one. The major one is Tennessee Gas or Tenneco, that's what they call it. Luckily, they still value those. I mean, there's been rumors that those may come to a local level. And again, it would have to be an evaluation of some sort. I don't think it'll ever pass.
So how about like, so on the Mass Electric telephone poles, there's also Verizon and Spectrum. How do we pick Verizon Spectrum up, or do we?
That comes from the state. Yep, and any of the cell phone ones, we do ourselves in here.
Yeah, but I'm like, Spectrum went around and they did a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah, that they send in their own form of list.
Okay.
And you should see it's page after page of all these things that I won't even try to say that I'm an expert on what they are, but we use the valuation that they give us. And this year, RRC will be using those because they have all of our form of lists. So there may be a letter or a memo that you're going to have to sign accepting these values. We'll leave it open right now until Joe tells me that we need one of those for the certification, and I will quickly. Typically, you do sign off on these, but we'll see what he wants to do. Update on the certification. So I think at our last meeting, I was talking about the sales analysis and how I was attempting to do it on the new version, V8. I have since scrapped that plan. I had every intention of going forward and using that because we're using it for everything else, but it is so beyond issues right now. And I mean, technically there's some issues, the user friendliness of it. Honest to God, I don't know how other communities are using it. I love the system and everything else that's there. The sales analysis side is not the greatest. So I basically scrapped what I was doing, which is sort of putting me behind, but I had to. There was just no way to, I mean, when you get a response that, something's not working, what was happening, it was pulling in all my unqualified sales. Even though I was telling the system, this is not a qualified sale, I don't want it in the study. Lo and behold, it would appear. So I called technical support and I said, I can't have these in there. I'm telling the system that they're not supposed to be there. And he ran it and lo and behold, they didn't show it. And I said, well, run it again. And he ran it again and there they were. And so he comes back and he says, I think what you'll have to do is just back out of the system every time you go to run your sales analysis so it resets. I said, that's not going to work. But the major thing that really bothered me was when you're doing your single families, which is a use code of 101, but Vision adds the extra digit for our lake properties. So single family homes like yours would be a 1010. Got that. Anything around the lake is a 1013. So we can easily take those and do a study on the 1013s and eliminate all the ones that aren't 1013s or waterfront. This system, it printed out all my 101s and then it printed all the 1013s. And I said, All right, but I just need to know, how do you combine them? The state wants them all together, and then they're gonna tell me to break them down separately. And they said, oh, no, you can't do that anymore. And I said, I need that done, even though we only have 8 sales around the bowl. That's a huge deal. I need to be able to do that. And I spent endless nights bringing the computer home, trying to figure out, how do you combine these? Sure, you can dump it to a spreadsheet, but when Joe's here and says, you want to look at this one, or you're going to want to look at this one, and give it to me this way, and give it to me that, and it is going to be chaos. So the easiest thing that I thought to do was basically go back, at least for, this certification year, use what I know, because the old system I've been using for the longest time. Department of Revenue doesn't care whether you do it on your phone. They don't care if you do it on a spreadsheet. It just better conform to certification standards. And when they want to report, they're going to want it the way they want it. And a lot of the times I'll recreate those reports in a spreadsheet, because there's just some of them that they'll send out there. And I'm like, Vision's not going to do this on the old or the new system. And so I spent last week recreating the file that I recreated on the first round on the computer on Vision 6, runs smoothly. The new thing this year, though, is land residuals have to be done in every single parcel. Typically, you never had to do it on every single one. So you may have some that are a little off, but they still, in the end, they conform to the 90 to 110% of value of market. This time around, you have to have a land residual for every single sale. I started out with 54 sales, and through the process of looking at the deeds, looking at the sales questionnaires that we send out, you come to the conclusion that, some of them get coded out, some of them will have deed restrictions, some of the sales questionnaires give you information that you didn't know about, so you kick those sales out. So we're now working with 39 sales. I think it might be 40 in the end. And that's still 22 more sales than we typically have. So when Joe wants to look at the sales analysis, he's not going to know whether I ran it on version 6 or version 8. And it doesn't even matter to him, because I'm only doing the sales analysis. I'm not making all the changes on the old system. I'm doing the sales analysis, and then I'm replicating it. It'll take me a day to replicate it on the new system. All the reports, all the tables, everything will be run on version 8. So going into next year, it will be as if it was run on version 8, and I'll have more time to get in, and hopefully, when you call Vision, they're really good at getting to the point and having someone look at your issue. They put these things called tags in, or tickets, and what it does is it runs through the system to see if any other communities have had these issues. So they can say, okay, this looks like an issue that everyone seems to be having. I think mine are just so specific. They may even look at it and say, you're just an old fart who's been used to the old system and you don't want to change. Well, that's the way that I can get this stuff done for the DOR. So say what you will, that's the best method that I can think of at this point. So what I'm going to do is at this time, I haven't heard from Joe in a few weeks. He's bound to call. I have to call him because we're scheduled for, and this was very tentative from the start because it's just a work plan that can get changed. August 2nd was the date he was going to be out here. I'm at UMass on August 2nd for the USPEP course. I got all the materials in the mail. So I had called him and I said, is it okay to change it? This was weeks ago, to August 3rd. Now I'm going to have to call him and say, I think we need to bump that at least a week or two because of all these changes. And I also have not received the appraisal yet from Roy Bishop for Glendale Power. I have to call RRC today about the personal property accounts that we hired someone to do. She wants me to review those. Tammy's actually went through all of the second homeowner forms of list that came back. She added and totaled up every single one of them. Now I'm going to give her the spreadsheet to go and enter all those numbers. And actually then the study will be, nearly 90% complete at that point. And I'll tell you guys what that percentage comes in at our next meeting. So far, I still have the commercial to do, which is the income approach on all the commercial properties. I started the rental schedule not much is changing with that. You have to do a base rate or a cap rate analysis. That's probably going to be a little different than what we're used to because of the way things are right now with lease space and how much people are charging. So I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. Again, anything can happen once he's here. I will say that, and I don't want to get into it too much because I know we talked about this quite a bit at a couple meetings ago about the valuations. There will be some big changes, and now what I'm seeing, because of the land residuals are done because the state wants to see if you don't have enough land sales, they want to see how each home value, how much land is being attributed to the total value. And when you get a sale that's 1.4 million and you have a land value of 100,000, they may have an issue with it. So this week I'm going to spend going through, and my jump off point will be the average neighborhood and see, because most of the high end sales were in the 7, 8, 9 range for our site indexes, and we go from 4, 5, 6 is our 6 is our average. Anything above that, it seems like most of the trouble that I'm having on the sales are definitely the high end, like $1 million ones, and they could come back. The DOR could come back and say we're not attributing enough. You still got to come up, it's always going to be total value versus sale price, but they could still come back and say your land residuals are either too tight, and at that point they may be looking at it as, you really have to do something with your land. So I'm going to start at the average neighborhood and increase just in little increments to see how close I can still keep. What can happen is you can have your entire analysis done. The state will come in and say, let me see your land residuals. They still have to work. If your overall ratio is 99% of market value, the state does not want to see a land analysis that is 83%. They will immediately say that and say your land value is way too low in that area. Right now, I worked on it over the weekend and I still have 2 high ends, number 7 and number 8, that are coming in at like 93%, which seems great. But if our ratio at the end ends up being 100%, I'm more than 5 points off. They won't allow that. It has, if I'm at 100, every ratio has to come in at 95% or 105 on the other end. Or they will, and those are the things they catch you on. And I know they're not trying to catch you on it, but it's running every report every which way after everything is done and making sure that every single one of those ratios are 5% away. And they even, one year they caught me on a rounding issue because we round 2 places. I submitted everything to the DOR and they came back and said, we ran your sales by sale. They call it sale price quartile. So what they'll do is they'll take your lowest sale, let's say it's 100,000, and then they'll want to, if you've got 40 sales, meet in the middle at 20 and break it out 20-20. Where's the high and where's the low and where's the high, and does it conform 5%? And they'll do the same. Well, one year I submitted and my highs, they came back and said, we think you're too high on your highs. And I said, why? And they said, look at your ratio. And I said, it works. It's 95. Like, no, it's coming in at 0.9 or 0.9467. I said, yeah, but we round 2 places. So we went up to 95. They made me redo the whole thing. So it's things like that I will not let them find a little mistake like that. And that's why it takes so long to run these reports and make sure, because one little change up here is, and they've done that to me before. They've come in and said, you're going to have to make that change here. We know you can do it. And I'll go to the other offices. I literally have to do the entire reval again. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I think we're going to be good. A little weird that he hasn't called me, but I'll call him. I know what's going on. I'll call Roy Bishop as well. Number 5, the last time we talked about Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum's request for tax exempt status, you wanted me to get a hold of them, tell them that we're still, in the process of review. I did email Kevin and I told him, and he says, obviously take as much time as you need. And I also said, well, the reason why it's taking so long is because you will be getting a set of questions from the board that will most likely come with help from our town council as well. And that's, actually, either Donna's on vacation. I've left 2 messages and she hasn't gotten back to me yet on the questions. She will help with the questions. She probably will write them. But again, if you guys have any like specific ones that you want to email me, Tammy and I can come up with doctor them up a little bit and send those out instead of waiting for,
So
are there any that we can, I'm pretty much familiar with which ones we need to ask them. It's pretty much been the ones we have been asking them.
so if we each sent you 5 questions.
Yeah.
And we don't debate them via email, we're not going to be in trouble with the open meeting law.
No.
So maybe what we should do is maybe we should not talk about it so we can get a little bit different perspective and
Yeah.
submit 5 questions to you so that maybe you can
So,
have a basis.
And even if you don't have 5, whatever.
in the interest of full disclosure, for 6 years, my offices were at the Lenox Scenic Railroad when I worked for the Houstonic Valley
Okay.
Association. So I'm wondering if I should recuse myself from this discussion. I should have brought this up sooner.
I don't know.
I think
That's up to you
If you
guys.
feel conflicted, I think you should. If you don't feel conflicted, we could always reach out to get a ruling, but if you feel conflicted, I think you should.
Yeah, because to be honest, I'm sympathetic to their mission. So I think with that in
Okay.
mind, I should recuse myself. And does that work for you, Gary?
Yeah, it's fine. If you, that's a personal thing.
I mean, that's the better way of doing it than,
Err on the side of
Yeah.
caution.
Right, absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other things that I should contact them about?
Tammy, is that going to get in the minutes? Perfect, thank you. Sorry.
Is there anybody that's on? Okay. Anything else about that?
Yeah, no, I just think we should get the questions out to Donna and so that she has a basis to make some.
Yeah, and I have a few too, but I have a feeling they're probably going to be close to what you guys.
Well, that's the thing is I think we should.
Like I said, what we've already talked about, you can break those down a little bit more, but I think in general, they're going to be probably pretty close to one another.
So just
Yeah, that's fine.
Follow up on my previous point. I think I should not be suggesting questions either if I'm recusing myself.
Oh, definitely, right. Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Well, since there's no audience, we can move to number 7. And I think at this point, because the meetings are pretty much being run on our own, we will just end the meeting and then go into,
We have to close ourselves.
yep.
Yeah. So we can, but I think we should still put it on here, don't you? That we'll say we're, okay, so.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, so I would vote to close this, I would entertain a motion to close this meeting and then go into executive session per MGL, Massachusetts General Law, that is, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 7, to discuss
Well, I screwed up on that, sorry.
property tax exempt statuses and future pilot and issues, the pilot program. And so I would entertain a motion to do that. And also, we will not return to a live broadcast
So move.
or a taped one for that matter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.